Let's talk about mediation. I really like mediation, and it's something that we move forward on a lot in many of these cases if you want to keep the house. Sometimes even if you don't want to keep the house, if you actually move forward with the steps of mediation, that'll slow it down some more too. But let's talk about in general that you want to keep the house and that we're using mediation as a process to do that. So what is mediation? Well, mediation is essentially modification with a mediator present. So we've talked about the modification earlier. You're trying to modify the terms of the mortgage to get to a payment that you can afford. Either roll the arrearages back or lower the payments or whatever. So something that you can afford. So you're going to change the terms of the loan so that you can afford it. Now, if we're doing regular modification, you send in a packet to the mortgage company and you hope that they do something with it. Most often they lose the documents. You send in multiple documents. You talk to a collector. You never actually talk to the person who's doing the modification process. So it's kind of a hit or miss deal with the modifications. The mediation, however, you actually get to talk to the underwriter who's underwriting the modification process. So that's why I love mediations versus modifications. And we do it all different ways in this office. You know, we do lots of mods, but we also do lots of mediations, and I much prefer the mediation process, and you will too. So now, it used to be, not too long ago, that you had an automatic right to do mediation. The Florida Supreme Court had come down with an administrative order that said, hey, you have a right to mediation. That's no longer the case. However, you certainly have a right to ask for mediation. And so to do that, you would petition the judge. You file a motion for mediation. And there's a sample motion for mediation in your documents. It's a very simple, straightforward pleading. It says, hey, judge, we want to mediate. That's essentially it. And so then they'll say, okay, fine, we're going to order you to mediation, and then there'll be an order for mediation, and then both sides have to go to mediation. Normally there are standard mediators that work within the different counties. Usually there'll be a list of those mediators, or very often the plaintiff's attorney will contact you and say, hey, here's a mediator that we use, do you care? Probably not. I mean, unless you're really deeply into this area, you're not going to know who's a good mediator and who's not. The mediators, the state courts, are kind of hit or miss. Some are really good, some are not. Some there's kind of a paperweight sitting there, and others are actually very involved in the process. So there's a third-party mediator who's not really supposed to be interested in either party, but trying to help the process go along. Normally it's you, the mediator, and usually on the phone is the plaintiff's attorney and the plaintiff's underwriter, so the bank's underwriters on the phone. Now, sometimes the plaintiff's attorney will be in the room with you, but a lot of times they're on the phone. That's okay. As long as we got someone that we can talk to. Now, why is that a beautiful thing? Well, because you can actually talk to them rather than modification where you really don't. You get a denial and they're like, why is it denied? And you have to go back and forth. Here they can say, look, your income doesn't seem to work. You're like, well, what figures are you using for the income? Or they say, well, look, your expenses are too. Well, I don't think so. Which expenses are you talking about? So that's the beauty of sitting there with a mediator and dealing with the underwriter directly is you can talk about what they think are the numbers. And sometimes, and very often, they have them wrong. So that's why mediation is a great thing. Now we have, again, the sample mediation. We have also, for if you really want to get into this, we have a kind of a mock mediation video so you can see how the mediation process goes, and it's very simple. It's actually a lot less intimidating than doing the hearings on the motion to dismiss or motions to compel because there's no judge, and it's kind of a very informal process. So this is not something you should be afraid of, and I understand if you're afraid of the motion to dismiss and the motion to compel. I don't want you to be afraid of the mediation. I want you to embrace the mediation, all right? So because that can really help a lot. And if you have any interest in keeping the house, mediation is one of the very things we need to do.